Hi everyone, I'm Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and today I'm here with a wrap-up video. I'm going to start doing wrap-ups on this channel. I haven't yet, but I'm going to start. This is a mid-month wrap-up because I have read 14 books already. This is the 15th of February, and I have read 14 books so far. So I didn't want to wait till the end of the month to do a wrap-up because that would be the world's longest wrap-up. Even if I did it with very short and succinct thoughts, it would still be very, 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 very long. So we're going to do 14 books now, and then at the end of the month, I'll do a wrap-up of the rest of what I read this month. But let's jump in. The first book I read this month was Find Me by Ashley Rostek. This is the first book in the Witsex series. It follows Shiloh. Shiloh was a witness to a horrendous crime with her family and is now in witness protection. She moves into a house, and next door live the four Stone brothers. This is a reverse harem. It is a thriller. It's a romance. It's so many things, and I absolutely loved it. It is a slow burn romance for sure, which I think was good because you're setting up four different relationships and also the interconnectedness of those. I didn't mind that it was a slow burn. The first book does have one very small smutty scene, but it is very small. The rest of the series, which I also read this month, gets a bit smuttier. The first book is Find Me. I gave that 5 stars. The second book is Save Me. I gave that 4 stars. And the third book is Love Me, and I gave that 5 stars. And it's probably my favorite book of the 3. But the whole series as a whole, I really do enjoy. The fourth book comes out in August, and I will definitely be picking that up. I only meant to read the first book this month, but as you can see, I'm wrapping up all 3, so I really did enjoy it. And I just went down a Witsex rabbit hole and read all 3 books in the first week of February. The next book I read was Our Stop by Laura Jane Williams. This book I ended up giving 2 stars. I did not love this book, unfortunately. This follows 2 characters, Nadia and Daniel. They see each other on the train every morning at 7:30. Daniel thinks Nadia is very interesting and puts an ad in the missed connection section of the newspaper saying, "To the cute girl with the coffee stains on her dress, I'm the guy who always standing by the door, drink sometime." And I thought that was a cute way to meet. My problem with this book was just the lack of communication. And because of the lack of communication, I found the characters extremely, extremely frustrating. I couldn't get as frustrated with Nadia because she didn't know who Daniel was, but Daniel knew who Nadia was. And even after she posted back in the newspaper, like encouraging him, he still didn't immediately like go up and introduce himself, and it just went on for much too long. I did not love this, and I did give it 2 stars. The next book I read in February is probably one of my most anticipated releases for February, and that is Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun by Elle Cosimano. I love this series. I had heard mixed reviews about this book going in, so I was a little bit nervous. I ended up giving it 4 stars. This is definitely a connecting book, connecting the 2 books prior to the books that are coming out later. It's definitely a filler book, but you know what? I didn't care. I love these characters so much. I love Finley and Vero. It starts off with Finley just being a hot mess, and immediately I was like, this is what I read these for. I love this series so much. It's so funny, and it's just a cozy series for me. It's like a warm hug series, and I just enjoy my time with it every single time. The fourth book I read this month was We Spread. I don't have a physical copy of it any longer. I had to give it back to the library. This is a horror book kind of based around aging and what aging looks like if maybe you have Alzheimer's or dementia. Our main character is aging, goes into an assisted living facility, and things start to happen that are very strange. She starts losing track of time. Lots of things are happening, and the whole time we're wondering, is it because she is aging and has something like Alzheimer's or dementia, or is there something actually going on at this retirement facility that is horrifying? I went back and forth on what was happening so many times in this book, and the ending, The ending got me. I sent Kelsey and Rainey, who had read it previously, both all caps, like what just happened messages when I finished. I ended up giving this 4 stars, and the reason I did go with 4 stars instead of 5 was just the writing style wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but the book is very interesting and very intriguing, and the concept is really intriguing, and I would definitely recommend picking it up. The next book I read in the month was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I read this on KU. This follows Rowan and Zara. Rowan is the grandson to the founder of Dreamland. Dreamland is very similar to Disney World. It's basically like a fictionalized Disney World, and also the franchise that spans from Disney, so there's streaming services and all sorts of things. The grandfather has passed away and left each grandson kind of like a task that they have to perform to get their shares in the company. Rowan has to go to the amusement park and become the director of the amusement park for a certain period of time and make some changes there. He meets Zara, who is a hairdresser at basically like the fictional Bippity Boppity Boop shop, and a workplace romance happens. The only issue I had with this is I just couldn't connect with the characters. I didn't really care that much about this romance, and in a contemporary romance, you have to care. It was just very middle of the road for me. I didn't dislike it. There was nothing that I didn't like about it, but there was nothing I particularly loved about it either. So I gave this 3 stars. The one thing I did enjoy was there was some disability rep in this book, as Zara's sister has Down syndrome, and there's a lot of talk of inclusivity of making the park more inclusive for those with disabilities, and I really did enjoy that part of the book. As a parent of a child with autism, that part of the book did really resonate with me. You're gonna notice with this wrap up that my ratings are all over the place this month. I think it's just, I've read a lot of books. So I've had a good amount of 5-star reads, but I've also had, I think, 3 2-star reads at this point. So it's been up and down and a roller coaster, and this was one of those kind of more down books, and it was Confessions of a Curious Bookseller by Elizabeth Green. The synopsis of this book leads you to believe it is one thing, and it's really not that. I read it for the prompt of lowest rated on my TBR, so maybe I should have gone in assuming that it might be a low one, but I still had high hopes according to the synopsis. The synopsis makes this sound like it's a very much a you got mail situation, and it is not. This follows Fawn. She is a bookseller in Philadelphia. A new bookstore opens down the street, and they are in competition with each other. There's an online dating aspect. Again, it sounds like you've got mail. It's not. Fawn is not this cute bookseller of a main character, and I just couldn't get behind the character. She is drunk. Her store is falling down. She's catfishing people on the internet. She's doing illegal activities. She's stealing. She is just not a good main character. And I think it's supposed to come off as funny, but it just doesn't. She just comes off as deplorable. She's awful to her family, and really in the end learns very few lessons. So this was a 2-star for me, and we're just going to move on from it. But on the other side of the spectrum, we have a 5-star read. Like I said, it's been all over the place this month. We've had every star rating possible except a 1-star, but we've had it all. And for the B&K book club this month, we read Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, and this was a 5-star for me. This is not your typical contemporary romance. It's actually somewhat sad, but like beautiful at the same time. This is a friends to lovers, second chance romance, and it's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. It basically looks into what if your first love and your real true person, like the person that knows you the best and just understands your soul, but got away for various reasons, comes back into your life. What does that do to your life? Does it upend your life? Do you follow that or do you not? It is so beautiful, and I ended up definitely crying at the end. I cried on sprints because no one warned me that I was going to cry and that maybe I should not read it live on the internet. but it is just a absolutely beautiful book and one of my favorites from the month for sure. Next, I read All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is basically like a Hunger Games, but magical, which is why I wanted to pick it up. It follows 7 families who every 20 years submit a son or daughter who are about 18, 19, 20 at the time to compete to the death to win this reserve of high magic. High magic is running out and they need to compete to be the ones to have it for 20 years. In theory, this was going to be a home run for me. In execution, it turned out to be a 3-star. I found the pacing of this very off, and most of the tournament does not happen in this book. I think it probably happens in the second. It is a duology, but the pacing was just odd for me. The world building was really good at the beginning, and the end, when everything starts to pick up, started to get interesting, but the whole middle was very slow. Every time I put this down, I didn't want to pick it back up. So I think there are some really good things about this book. The concept's really good. And like I said, the ending really started to pick up and the world building was really good. But it didn't motivate me to pick up the book while I was reading it. And that's why it ended up getting 3 stars from me. I don't think I'm going to continue with the series, but if someone said there was a lot more of the tournament in book 2, which I'm assuming there is, so maybe I just need to talk to some people who read book 2, I could potentially be talked into reading book 2 if that's the case. Then we have a book that has a very strong potential to be one of my best books of the year, and that is Redemptor by Jordan Afinko. I read Ray Bearer last year, which is the first book in this series. This is the second and final book in this series, and it was one of my best books of the year last year. I had very high hopes for this book. It lived up to every possible hope I could have. I can really not tell you anything about this book because it is a direct continuation of the first book, but I will gladly read anything Jordan Afinko ever wants to write. I was crying by the end of this book. It had me going through every emotion you could possibly have. And when I was done, I was just so sad that I will never be with these characters again. Well, not in a new way. I probably will end up rereading this series at some point, but for right now. The themes in this book are thought-provoking, they're heartbreaking, they are empowering. There's so much that happens in this book, and there's so many underlying themes in this book, and I just absolutely love this series and highly recommend anyone picking this up. I also finished another series this month, and that was with the book The Secret of Whitestone Gate, which is the second and final book in the Black Hollow Lane series. This is a middle grade series by Julia Noble. It follows Emmy when she goes to private school and discovers a secret society that is connected to the death of her father, and lots of things happen in that first book. This is, again, the second book and kind of takes on another adventure following Emmy and her friends and the secret society. I love this because it is like an intro to dark academia for middle grade. It's cute, it's fun, and I really did need just like a cute, fun read amongst everything that I was reading this month, and this was the perfect book for that. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I really did enjoy it. I am doing so well with my pre-orders this year. I read my Finley pre-order when it came in. This book is also a pre-order from February, and I've already read it. That's right, 2 books that have recently come out that I pre-ordered and I actually read right away. When does that happen? But this was Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is kind of like a second chance, friends to lovers romance. It does have a little bit of a slow start, but once it kicks off, it definitely is a smutty book. It definitely has some smut in it, which I have come to expect from Tessa Bailey, so that's not surprising. I really did enjoy this one. There is a little bit of a secret admirer, letter writing situation, and I loved the characters in this book. There's also really good anxiety rep in this book with our main male character, Julian. As a person with anxiety, I really related to how he chose to handle his anxiety for a long time. I'm not as strict as Julian is, but I have handled my anxiety in a very similar way before and found that very interesting to read in a character. I ended up giving this 4 stars. The second book, I believe, comes out in June and follows Julian's sister. Julie and sister is in the first book as a side character, and I actually really liked that character, so I will definitely be picking up the second book when it comes out. And I think there's only 2 in this series as of right now, so maybe I will start and finish it all this year. And the last book I've read so far this month, unfortunately we're ending this wrap up on a low note, another 2-star, and that was Christina Lauren's The Honeydote List. I was shocked that I didn't like this. I have loved every Christina Lauren I have ever read. I've read 4, 2 were 5 stars, 1 was 4 stars, and now we have a 2-star. So it's very outside of what I normally give Christina Lauren, but I just did not like this book. It follows 2 assistants, Cassie and James. They are assistants to a married couple who basically have a home renovating empire, very similar to a Chip and Joanna Gaines situation. But behind the scenes, this married couple is having problems and really at each other's throats. There is cheating in their marriage. We find that out in the first 10 pages. And their marriage isn't just like a little bit rocky. It is downright falling apart. And frankly, this book follows that storyline way more than it follows the romance with the assistants. It's almost 60-40, which made me have a hard time connecting to the romance for the assistants. And when they kind of came together, it kind of felt just like, oh, we're going to put them together. There was no buildup, and it really just didn't make a whole lot of sense, and I just didn't connect to the romance. And I did not care about this married couple's drama. So that's why it got 2 stars. And that is everything I have read in the first half of February. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, or what was your favorite read so far in the month of February. I will be back at the end of the month with my final wrap up for February. But until then, chat to me down in the comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.